You're 23, standing on the corner of Wall Street and Broadway in a $109 suit from Sims and shoes that pinch because your size cost $20 more, and $20 is 3 dinners. It's October 1983. The wind from the East River is blowing in your face, and you want to turn back to Howard Beach, where your father is leafing through the daily news in the kitchen and your mother is frying eggs, and everything is clear, and nothing will happen. You don't turn around, you grip the handle of your briefcase and walk on. Howard Beach, Queens, Italians, and Irish. The territory was divided not by streets, but by bars. Budweiser in some, Guinness in others. My father drove the Q53 bus route for 31 years, the same road every day, back and forth. He got behind the wheel at 5 in the morning, came back at 7 in the evening, hung his jacket on the same hook, sat down to dinner, and said nothing. My mother, the receptionist at St. John's Clinic, knew the medical records of the entire neighborhood, the most informed and most silent person in Howard Beach. You were the middle child of 3 brothers, and the middle child is the one who goes unnoticed. The older one was on the football team, the younger one had asthma and got all of your mother's attention. You were healthy, quiet, and invisible. St. John's Business School, a degree that meant nothing. You realized this at the job fair when the guys from Wharton and Columbia walked past your line into another room where they were already being called by name. You stood there with your folder in your hands and watched their backs. 1 out of 14 places called you back. Rothberg and Keene, a brokerage firm on Water Street, basement floor, fluorescent lights and linoleum. Next to the Goldman and Merrill Towers, it looked like a stall against the wall of a department store. You didn't care, because the door had the same word on it, broker, and to a guy from Howard Beach that sounded like a pass. Rothberg and Keene, penny stocks and junk bonds for clients that the big firms wouldn't let past the reception desk. Long Island dentists, car wash owners, small contractors, people with money, without education, who wanted one thing, more. You would arrive at 8, throw your jacket on the back of a chair, sit down, and pick up the phone. 200 calls a day. 70 picked up, 20 listened. You bought 1 or 2. The rest sent you away and you hung up, crossed off the list with a pen, and dialed the next number because the math was simple. Every share sold was a commission, and if there were enough calls, by the end of the month, you'd have enough not to return to Howard Beach with your tail between your legs. The trading floor was a room the size of a school classroom, with 20 tables pushed together, each with a phone, an ashtray, and a sheet of paper with names on it. There was so much smoke that by lunchtime you couldn't see the wall opposite. Everyone is shouting, and you shout, bang your palm on the table, and by evening your voice is like sandpaper, and your hands smell like the plastic of the phone you've been holding for 10 hours. The first month, 3,400. The second, 400. The third, 11, because you found your rhythm. Not a script for beginners, but your own voice. Slightly quieter than the others, slightly slower. You leaned back in your chair, twirled the pen in your fingers, and spoke, and the people on the other end heard in that silence what they hadn't heard in the shouting. Confidence. You weren't persuading. You spoke as if you were doing them a favor, as if you had a line of clients waiting. A man who doesn't shout on Wall Street is a man who knows something you don't. They bought. By the summer of '84, $20,000 a month. You're 24, your father hasn't seen that kind of money in 30 years on the route. Your first $600 suit from Barney's on 17th, you run your fingers over the fabric, turn in front of the mirror, and the guy in the reflection is no longer the one who stood on the corner a year ago in shoes that didn't fit. A studio in Manhattan, Murray Hill, your first night on a mattress because there's no bed yet. You lie on your back, hands behind your head, staring at the ceiling, and a feeling that doesn't have a name yet. You've broken free. You are noticed by Stuart Landau, manager at Kessler Brothers, an office 2 floors above and 2 leagues cooler. He comes into the room, sits on the edge of the table, folds his arms, listens to your 3 calls. On the 3rd, he puts down his business card, taps it with his finger, come in on Monday. 2 weeks later, you're at Kessler Brothers, and everything that came before was just a warm-up. Junk bonds. In 1984, they weren't junk. They were a gold mine that Milken had uncovered on the West Coast. Companies that no bank would lend to issue securities with yields of 15 to 20%, and you sell them to pension funds, insurance companies, and wealthy individuals who look at the numbers and don't ask why so much, because greed doesn't ask questions. You don't ask either. Your first big client is Sol Peretti, owner of a chain of dry cleaners in New Jersey, 62 years old, a ring on his little finger, and he tells you on the phone, "Kid, I trust you, go for it," and you go for it. You invest his money in bonds of a company that is building a casino in Atlantic City with a yield of 19%, and 6 months later, Sol calls and says, "You're a genius, what else is there?" And you find more, and Sol brings his son-in-law brings his partner, and you have a network, and every node in that network brings in a commission. Cocaine appears as naturally as coffee. After the market closes, someone pours it on the mirror, spreads it with a credit card, holds out a rolled-up bill. You try it. A week later, you don't remember how you worked without it. The trading floor on cocaine is a different sport. You're faster, more accurate, words come out like a machine gun, and the client doesn't understand why this guy sounds like he knows the future. Everyone snorts. The guys from Goldman, in bathrooms with marble floors, the guys from Rothberg, right off their desks, bent over the carpet between calls. The only difference is the marble. By 1986, it's an apartment on Park Avenue. A doorman opens the door, a view of Central Park, a black Porsche, restaurants with menus without prices. The girls are models, actresses, everyone knows the rules, everyone is happy, no one gets hurt. Cocaine is no longer fuel, but background noise, like air conditioning. You don't notice it while it's working, but when it's turned off, it's impossible to exist. In the morning, a line on the glass table, to wake up. In the afternoon, in the office bathroom, to work. In the evening, from your fingernail in a taxi, to go out. At night, to fuck. And in between, so you don't think you're snorting too much. In February 1986, you arrive in Howard Beach for your mother's birthday. You park your Porsche outside the house, and the neighbor's kid is standing on the sidewalk, staring at the car with his mouth open. At the table are your mother, father, brothers, and your older brother's wife with a child in her arms. You brought her a watch, a nice Swiss one. She opens the box, looks at it, and says, "It's beautiful, thank you," and puts it on the shelf, and you know she won't wear it. Your father speaks to you once during the entire dinner, asking if you're eating okay. You're thin, with dark circles under your eyes, but it's cocaine, not hunger. And it's impossible to explain that to your father, who has been driving the Q53 route for 31 years. After dinner, you stand on the porch, smoking. Your younger brother comes out and stands next to you. He is silent. Then he says, "Mom says you don't call." You say, "I do call." He says, "No, you don't." You finish your cigarette, throw away the butt, get into your Porsche, and drive away. Kessler Brothers Christmas Party, 86. You take a glass, step away from the crowd, stand by the window on the 42nd floor. Manhattan is lit up below. In your jacket pocket is a bag worth $3,000. In the other are the keys to your Porsche. On your wrist is a watch more expensive than your parents' house. You lean your forehead against the glass and look down, and one thought breaks through the cocaine and champagne very quietly. None of this is real. Not the money. The money is real. You spend it. It exists. You are not real. The guy from Howard Beach in a $3,000 suit on the 42nd floor is a role you play so well that everyone believes it, including you. But underneath it all, beneath the cocaine and commissions, sits the boy who stood in line at the job fair while the Wharton guys walked by, and that boy knows you weren't invited here, and sooner or later they'll figure it out. They don't understand. No one understands, because on Wall Street in 1986, no one cares who you are. They care how much you brought in. But in May 1987, Bosky turns himself into the feds, and a chill runs through Wall Street. The SEC starts digging, subpoenas fly like confetti, and Landau gathers his partners in his office and says, "We're clean. But if anyone gets visited, you're on your own. He looks at each of them in turn. You sit there thinking about Sal Peretti and his dry cleaners, about that casino in Atlantic City, about the papers you sold without asking questions, and you calculate in your head which ones could land you in jail. They don't come, not this time. Kessler Brothers is too small for the SEC, a minnow on a shark's belly, and the feds are busy with sharks. But you sleep poorly for 2 weeks, and you sniff more, and your hands shake, and it's not from the coffee. October 1987. Black Monday. The market loses 508 points in a day, 22%, and you sit in the trading room and watch the numbers on the screen melt away as if someone had thrown them into acid. The phones won't stop ringing. You grab the receiver, clamp the other one between your shoulder and your ear. Every call is a client screaming. Every scream is money disappearing. And you scream back, "Hold on, don't sell. This is the bottom." And you don't know yourself if it's the bottom or not. Sol Peretti calls at 2 o'clock. He doesn't yell. He speaks quietly, and that's worse than yelling. "I trusted you, man." You answer, "Sol, hold on. The market will come back." He's silent for a second. Then he says, "Sell everything." You sell. By the end of the day, you hang up the phone and loosen your tie. The room is quiet. Someone is sitting with their face covered by their hands. Landau stands in the office doorway with the face of a man who has been robbed in his own kitchen. You've lost clients worth $17 million. Not everyone survives the crash. 3 people from the room leave within a week, carrying boxes without looking back. One went out to the parking lot, got into his car, and didn't start the engine, just sat there for 2 hours with his hands on the steering wheel until a security guard knocked on the window. One was taken away by his wife. She came into the room with his jacket, took him by the elbow, and led him away. One hung himself in November, in an apartment in Jersey City, and you find out about it from a conversation in the elevator, between floors, in passing, as if someone had mentioned the weather. The doors open, everyone gets out, and the conversation ends. You survive because you have something the guys from Wharton don't have. You know what it's like to have nothing to lose. You've been there before. Falling doesn't scare you the way it scares people who have always been at the top. The next morning, you sit down at your desk, pick up the list, and make the calls. Sol Peretti doesn't answer the phone. He doesn't answer for a week, 2 weeks, a month. You call his brother-in-law, who says Sul asked him not to call anymore. The first client you lost, not because you sold poorly, but because the market took away what you promised. December 1987, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're sitting on the bathroom floor. Your heart is pounding so hard you can hear it in your ears. Sweat is running down your back, and your left arm is going numb. You're 27 and you think, a heart attack, here, on the tile floor, alone, and they'll find you in a week because of the smell. You sit there, not moving, waiting. It passes. It's not a heart attack. It's a panic attack, cocaine and stress. But you don't know that because you won't go to the doctor, because the doctor will tell you to quit and you have nothing to replace it with. In the morning, you get up off the floor, wash your face, look in the mirror, gray face, red eyes, put on a suit and go to work. A year later, you make up for everything. 2 years later, you double it. You get new clients, become more cautious, more vicious, and don't promise more than you can deliver. By the time you're 90, you're a partner at Kessler Brothers, with a leather sofa in your office, a secretary bringing you coffee, and you stand by the glass wall and look out at the trading floor. There are 23-year-olds in sim suits yelling into their phones, and you see yourself in each of them, and you feel nothing. No nostalgia, no pity, no pride. You look and think, fuel. They'll burn out like that guy in Jersey City, or they'll survive and become like you, and there's not as much difference between those 2 options as there should be. You're 30, over $1 million a year. Apartment, car, girls, watches, suits, everything you wanted when you stood on the corner in '83. And at night, you lie in your apartment on Park Avenue and can't sleep without cocaine. And with cocaine, you can't sleep at all. And you get up at 3 o'clock and stand by the window barefoot on the cold floor, and Central Park below is dark and quiet. And you think about the Q53 route, there and back. The same route, every day. And for the first time in your life, you realize that your father, who rode the same route for 31 years and didn't go crazy, knew something that you still don't know. The next morning, you put on your suit, tie your tie, get in your Porsche, and drive to work, because to stop means to fall, and there's nowhere to fall, with 42 floors and concrete beneath you.